Southern Miss loses 66-13 to the number 4 team in the country. Billy Wiles, 11 completed 11 for 34, 154 yards and an interception. He was sacked twice. We do this after every game, or at least we did for the last game. We might as well do it for this game. Grading Billy Wiles. And Jackson, what would be your grade of Billy Wiles?
If this was a Sun Belt game, if this was a game against Texas State, if this was a game against a ULM and Arkansas State, even against a Louisiana, it would be much lower than it is against a team that Will Hall, Dima, and I, and a lot of members in the media are touting to be, hey, this team likely will be playing for a national championship title. I would grade him, knowing what he was up against, knowing the environment that he was playing in, knowing the context in which his career has gone, I would give him a B. Obviously, less than 33% completion rate. It's not ideal. Obviously it's not ideal. And no touchdowns, 1 interception. It's not ideal. However, you need to, whenever you grade things, this isn't like grading a math exam. You know what I mean? It's not like grading a math test and a John Deere is driving right past us. It's so cool. It looks like a toy that I had whenever I was a kid. Anyways, this isn't like grading a math exam. And that's what a lot of people like to do. They like to grade quarterback performances strictly on the numbers alone. This is more like grading an essay. This is like grading an essay, Dima Mixon, because of the fact that you need to take context into account for a lot of this. And I have no idea what in the world they're doing. You need to take context into account of this. If you look at the strict numbers, you would say Billy Wiles had a terrible performance, but he didn't. He didn't. Will Hall said that he was impressed by him. I mean, you've got a young quarterback coming into a hostile environment. I stood taking pictures where this camera is situated, and 12 feet behind was a student section that you rarely see as active or as crazy as that student section. And they were saying, as student sections do, abhorrent things to anyone even close to the Southern Miss sideline. And for his second start since May of 2021 for his high school state championship, I would give him a B. It's obviously not ideal. You've got only 154 yards, but you have a long of a 33-yard pass. That's impressive against a national championship team that is paying you $1.5 million to come here and play. That's impressive. Again, obviously a pick six isn't ideal. Less than 33% completion rate isn't ideal. But look at the context. Look at the context. Watch how everyone around him performed. This was a team loss. It's not a Billy Wiles loss. If you put in a different quarterback, if you put in no quarterback play and you strictly run it, you're still not winning the game.
Yeah.
Billy Wiles made this a lot more competitive than it would have been in his absence. And again, before anyone lambasts anyone on social media, please look at the context. Realize that Southern Miss is still in a rebuild. They're there. They're right there. And I promise you, as covering this team in my short tenure, they are on the precipice of getting back to where the Southern Miss faithful wants Southern Miss to be. But they're not there yet, and Billy Wiles isn't there yet. But he has shown the capacity and the potential to get to that point in which everybody's hoping that he will.
So I think it's okay for fans to be frustrated because two years ago, and Will Hall's been saying this all week, this was a game that was supposed to match up with that 2021 Alabama game. This was a game where it was supposed to be how far has this program come in 2 years under Will Hall. They get beat worse tonight than they did in Tuscaloosa. Now, granted, you can make an argument that this is maybe a better team than that 2021 Alabama team. But, I mean, that's the only team, the Alabama team, man, we're stacked. They went to the national championship game that year. We're saying that Florida State could be in the national championship game that year. So it's not that different. So all season or all week it's been, 63-14 against Alabama in 2021. And all week it's been, can it be better here? And I don't think it was. And Billy Wiles, second start. And I thought he made some plays tonight that were very promising. There was a 3rd and 21, and it was 14-0. or I think it was 7-0. It was either 7-0. It was right in the beginning of the game. 3rd-and-21. He finds Tyquan Henderson for a 19-yard gain in a big moment. He has a man in his face. He delivers the pass in between his zone coverage and gets the pass in there. They go for it on 4th down. They don't get it, but I applaud them for the aggressiveness of going for 4th down. I said that on the pregame podcast, shoot your shot, right? And I thought that those plays he made were good tonight. The pick six was a terrible throw. There was a terrible read, terrible throw, and he said he needs to be better. But I think that fans have a right to wonder why Ja'Carrius Cast only had 1 catch tonight. Like I think that and Florida State was giving him a lot of trouble, and their penalties were giving him a lot of trouble. But I mean, you got to be able to get the ball to your playmakers. And for Antavius Willis to lead this team in receiving is something that I don't think anybody would have had on their bingo card. Ja'Carrius Caston actually had 2 receptions. But, your star guys in Ja'Carrius Caston, Tyquan Henderson, I mean, did Brandon Hayes even have a catch tonight? I mean, so these are the things that I think you at least want to question, right? It's like, okay, what was the game plan coming in? Because they started out throwing the ball 9 times. They didn't even run the ball. They didn't run it. They didn't give the ball to their best player, Frank Gore Jr., for the first 9 plays against the top-ranked team, one of the top-ranked teams in the country. So all that being said, I think you give Billy Wiles a nice B- tonight, because I agree with Jackson that this is more about perspective. Because I don't think anybody expect him to come in here and throw for 500 yards and win this game. You wanted to see some competent quarterback play, and I thought we did. I didn't think that there was any time tonight where it was like, oh, I don't know what he's doing. He's running around throwing into the sidelines. He wasn't forcing anything other than the pick six. So I think that kind of makes me have a B-, more closer to a C, just because of that. If he doesn't have that though, I'd just give him a B, because I don't know what you want him to do, right? I don't know what you're expecting him to do. He's going up against, like Jackson said, 5- and 4-star players. I understand that Southern Miss fans have a right to be frustrated, but I don't know what you're expecting him to do, man. I mean, this wasn't about whether or not Southern Miss could come in here and, put up 35 points on Florida State. It was whether or not they would look competitive, and I don't think they look competitive tonight. So, then that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, and maybe people disagree, but 66-13 is not competitive. I don't care how you spice it up, but it's just not competitive. So if it, that's why I give Billy Wiles the B-, because I don't think it was necessarily his fault that they were uncompetitive. But the bottom line is they were uncompetitive. So B for you, B- for me. That's us grading Billy Wiles. That's Jackson Kennedy. I'm Dima Mixon. More of this on our podcast. You can find that wherever you get your podcast, and read the story at sm2media.com.